Amara, before we begin this official meeting and talk about numbers and contracts and hostile takeovers, I just want to say that whatever you're planning to do with my father's company, you have to understand that there are real people involved here. There are families depending on these jobs, and whatever happened between us back in high school should not influence a billion-dollar business decision today.
Ethan, it's interesting that you decided to bring up our high school years before I even opened my mouth about financials, because what's about to happen in this boardroom has nothing to do with revenge in the childish sense you might be imagining, but everything to do with the fact that your family's company underestimated a very specific girl a long time ago, treated her like she was invisible, and assumed she would never sit at a table like this, let alone sit at the head of it.
I know I made mistakes back then, and I'm not going to pretend I was a saint, but I need you to at least hear me out before you go through with this acquisition. My father is under tremendous stress, our shareholders are panicking, and your offer to buy majority control came out of nowhere. You have to understand that if you decide to crush us just because you want some poetic justice, you won't just be getting even with the past, you'll be hurting a lot of innocent people in the present.
You keep using the word innocent, Ethan, and it's almost surreal to hear that word come out of your mouth so casually, as if you've forgotten how many times you stood by while your friends, especially Chloe, made my life a living nightmare in those hallways, in those classrooms, and even in the cafeteria where my own father worked as the janitor. You never lifted a finger to stop them, and you never thought I would remember you as anything other than another rich boy with a clean blazer and a dirty conscience.
That's not fair, Amara. There were times I tried to speak up, times when I walked away, times when I told Chloe to stop, but you have to understand the social pressure we were under. My father had this expectation that I would maintain a certain image, that I would not associate too closely with someone who could, in his eyes, damage the family reputation, and I was a coward. I admit it. But people change, people grow, and I've regretted my silence for years.
Do you know what's fascinating about regret, Ethan? Regret usually wakes up long after the damage has already been done, long after the words have been spoken, the laughs have echoed, and the wounds have formed scars that no apology can fully erase. Back then, every time someone laughed at my shoes or my backpack or my father's job, it felt like the world was telling me I didn't belong. But the beautiful thing about pain is that if you let it, it can turn into fuel. And the girl you all underestimated used that fuel to climb higher than any of you could have imagined.
Look, if this is about money, we can negotiate. I can convince my father to offer you a board seat, equity, partnership, whatever you want. But please don't destroy everything. This company employs thousands of people. This isn't just a schoolyard fight anymore. This is an economic reality.
Ethan, for the record, I'm not here to destroy anyone. I'm here to transform something that has been rotting from the inside out for years. You might not know this, but when a culture is built on arrogance, on we're better than them, on looking down at the so-called little people, it eventually collapses. I've watched your company from the outside, and I've seen the exact same attitude your classmates had in high school reflected in your corporate decisions, ignoring small clients, mistreating staff, abusing power. I didn't build my company just to become another version of you. I built it to prove there's a different way.
I had no idea you were watching us like that. Back in school, you were this quiet, top-of-the-class girl that most of us wrote off as the poor smart one. And now you're sitting here, casually talking about billion-dollar valuations and acquisitions. How did we not see this coming? How did I not see you for who you really were?
You didn't see me because you weren't looking, Ethan. None of you were. But if you're really curious about how I went from being the janitor's daughter you all laughed at to the woman who now has the power to buy your entire family's legacy with a single wire transfer, then sit down, be quiet, and listen. Because this isn't just a business deal for me. This is the conclusion of a story that started in a place you remember very well, the worn-out high school hallway, where my father pushed his mop and I pretended not to hear the whispers.
Then tell me everything, Amara. If there is even the slightest chance that understanding your story can change the outcome of today, I want to hear it. No matter how much it hurts.
All right then. Let's go back to where it all started. To the very first time I realized that in this world, people don't always see your heart or your mind. They see your shoes, your last name, and who cleans their floors.
Amara, I know you always tell me not to wait for you right outside your classroom because you don't want people to talk. But I also know that sometimes the only way I get to see you before my shift gets heavy is in this hallway at sunrise, when all the other kids are still on the bus, and you and I can share a quick conversation about your dreams before the noise of the world tries to drown them out.
Dad, you don't have to explain yourself like that. You're my father, and the only reason I even have the chance to walk down this hallway in the first place is because you wake up before everyone else, come here when it's still dark, and clean up the mess that no one even acknowledges. Sometimes I wish the other students would look at you the way I do, with respect and gratitude, instead of with those judgmental eyes that act like pushing a mop is something to be ashamed of.
People will always have something to say, my girl. They will always find a way to think they are better than someone else, because that's how weak people make themselves feel strong. But you and I, we know the truth. Work is work. There is no shame in honest labor. I would rather be on my knees cleaning this floor with pride than sitting behind some fancy desk built on lies and arrogance.
I know, and every time I see you, I feel proud. But when I'm in class, and I overhear them whispering that I smell like bleach, or that my shoes are charity case shoes, or that I got my grades only because I'm some sort of teacher's pet, it hurts in a way I don't always know how to explain. It's like no matter what I do, they've already decided who I am.
Then let me remind you who you truly are, Amara. You are not your shoes. You are not this uniform I wear. You are not our empty refrigerator or the second-hand textbooks. You are your mind, your kindness, your resilience. You are the way you stay up at night helping your mother with her medication schedule and then still wake up at 5 a.m. to study. You are more than what they see at a glance, and one day, the whole world will know your name, not because of who your father was, but because of who you chose to become.
When you talk like that, Dad, I can almost see it. I can almost see a future where I'm not the poor girl tiptoeing around my own school, hoping no one notices that my father is the janitor. I can see myself in an office, maybe, or leading something important, making decisions, changing things. But then Chloe walks in with her designer bag and the latest phone, and the laughter follows her like a shadow, and I remember that the distance between where I am and where they are feels like 100 million miles.
Money can build walls, Amara, but it cannot build character. What Chloe and her friends have is access and comfort, but that does not mean they have depth or true strength. You, on the other hand, are being forged in the fire of hardship. Every joke they make at your expense is a piece of fuel you can choose to burn in two ways. You either let it burn you down, or you use it to light a fire under your dreams. Promise me you will choose the second option, even when it's hard.
I promise, Dad. I promise I will not let their words define me. I will get the grades, I will get the scholarships, and I will get out of this cycle. One day, when they're busy arguing over which party to attend, I'll be busy signing something that actually matters.
That's my girl. And remember, no matter what they say, when I'm mopping this floor and they look up and I see you walking by with your books, I feel like I'm cleaning the path for a future leader. So hold your head up high when you walk past me, okay? Don't ever look down in shame. If anyone should be ashamed, it is those who think they are better just because someone else cleans their mess.
Okay, Dad. Today, I'm going to try something different. I'm going to walk in there like I belong, like I have every right to be in that classroom, because I do. And when they look at me, I won't shrink. I'll remember your words instead.
That's all I ask, my daughter. Now go on, before the hallway fills with noise and you lose this moment of peace. And if anyone gives you trouble, remember, one day, they might be the ones who come to you for a job.
That sounds impossible right now, but I'll keep that image in my mind. I'll imagine them handing you their resume while you sit in a big office, and maybe that will make today's comments hurt a little less.
Never underestimate how much life can change, Amara. Now go conquer that classroom.
Well, if it isn't the queen of thrift store fashion herself, carefully organizing her second-hand textbooks as if they were made of gold. Tell me, Amara, does the smell of cleaning chemicals ever leave your clothes, or is it just permanently stitched into the fabric like your last name? Chloe, I'm really not in the mood today. I have a math test that actually matters for my future, so if you could direct all the negative energy towards something useful, like studying for once, that would probably help you more than trying to get a laugh at my expense. Oh, listen to that tone. Did the janitor give you one of his "you're going to be someone important one day" speeches again? That's adorable. I almost wish I had recorded it so I could play it back whenever I need a good dose of delusion. Here's a reality check for you. No matter how many A's you collect like trading cards, you will always be the girl whose father scrubs the toilets we refuse to sit on. You say that like cleaning is something shameful, Chloe, but if you're so far above it all, why do you need my father and people like him to do the work that keeps this school from becoming a health hazard? It's funny how the same people who consider themselves better than us would panic the moment the invisible workers disappeared. The difference, Amara, is that people like my father pay for things to be done. People like yours do the actual work. That's how the world works. Some families own the building, some families clean it. I'm just smart enough to understand my place in the hierarchy. You, on the other hand, seem determined to believe in some kind of fairy tale where you magically climb your way to our level with nothing but good grades and inspirational speeches. And you're arrogant enough to believe that money guarantees permanent status, like circumstances never change and companies never fall and fortunes never disappear. Maybe you're the one living in a fairy tale, Chloe, except your story has a very boring plot. Girl grows up rich, never learns empathy, and then one day has no idea what to do when the world stops treating her like a princess. You know what? You're actually kind of funny when you try to be brave. I almost respect the effort. But let's not pretend that your little speeches mean anything. At the end of the day, when I get into my car that probably costs more than everything your family owns, and you get on the bus that smells like old gum and disappointment, the world sees the difference. And trust me, colleges see it too. They might pretend to care about diversity and inclusion, but at the end of the day, they love money and connections even more. Then I guess it's my job to become so undeniable that not even their love for money can overshadow my achievements. If you think I'm going to let your insults break me, you really don't know me. Being talked down to by you is still easier than watching my mom struggle to breathe or listening to my dad come home with back pain so bad he can barely stand. Compared to that, your words are just noise. Wow. You really are committed to the tragic underdog role, aren't you? Fine, play the card. But understand this, people like me will always have a head start. We have tutors, we have internships lined up through family friends, we have safety nets. You have. What? A mop and a sob story? I have something you can't buy, Chloe. Hunger. Not the kind you satisfy with overpriced cafeteria food, but the kind that lives in your chest and keeps you awake at night. I have the hunger to change my life, to take care of my family, to prove that someone from nothing can become something. That hunger is worth more than your wardrobe. Hunger is cute until you're standing next to people with actual power. Let's see how far your speeches get you on career day when everyone sees that your family business is a janitor's closet. Better start rehearsing your lines, Amara. Maybe tell them how inspiring it is to watch your father scrub away other people's dirt. I'm not ashamed of my father's work. If anything, I'm ashamed that people like you think they're better than him. And one day, when you're forced to sit across from someone you used to laugh at and ask them for a chance, I wonder if you'll remember these conversations, or if you'll pretend they never happened. I can promise you one thing, the day I ever have to ask you for anything is the day the world has truly ended. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to go meet Ethan. We're planning a little get-together this weekend, and spoiler alert, you're not invited. Amara, I was wondering when you would come by. I saw the way you left class today, shoulders tight, jaw clenched, like you were carrying something heavy that had nothing to do with the test you just aced. Sit down for a moment. Talk to me. You know this classroom is safe territory. Sometimes I wonder how long I can keep pretending that everything doesn't get to me, Miss Rivera. I tell my dad that I'm okay, I tell my mom that school is fine, But every day it feels like I'm walking through a battlefield where the weapons are whispers and looks and subtle comments about my shoes or my father's job. I keep thinking that if I just work hard enough, I can outrun it, but the ridicule is always right behind me. Bullying doesn't always show up as bruises and black eyes, Amara. Emotional wounds are just as real, sometimes even deeper, because they work slowly, convincing you that the words are true. And when those words target your family, your background, the people you love, it can feel like someone is stabbing at the core of who you are. I'm not going to tell you to just ignore it, because that's dismissive and unfair. But I am going to remind you that you have more power here than you realize. How can I have power when they have everything? Their parents sit on boards and run companies, they roll up in big cars, they talk about vacations and ski trips while I'm thinking about whether our electricity will get cut off again. Every environment seems built for them, not for someone like me. On the surface, it looks that way, yes. But let me tell you a secret I've learned from watching hundreds of students walk through this school. Those who grow up with everything often develop a dangerous illusion that the world will always soften itself for them. They become fragile in a way that isn't immediately obvious. The moment life doesn't go according to their script, they crumble. You, on the other hand, are building muscles right now, emotional muscles, intellectual muscles, resilience muscles. Those are the muscles that carry you through the long run. I want to believe that, and sometimes I do. Sometimes I imagine myself years from now, no longer flinching when someone says janitor, no longer shrinking when Chloe laughs. I imagine being in a room where people actually listen when I speak, not because they're mocking me, but because they respect me. But then I look at the statistics, and I remember that people born into money are more likely to stay rich, and people like me are more likely to stay struggling. How do I break that pattern? You break it the way every pattern has ever been broken, by becoming the exception. And that is not just wishful thinking when it comes to you, Amara. I have your test scores in front of me. I have seen the way you ask questions that go beyond the syllabus. I've watched you stay after class not because you're lost, but because you want to understand how the world works. That curiosity, combined with your work ethic, is exactly what scholarships and universities look for. You are not just another student to them. You are their chance to prove that opportunity can change lives. Scholarships sound amazing, but they also sound like some distant fantasy. Applications cost money, traveling to interviews costs money, even printing out essays costs money sometimes. Meanwhile, my father is breaking his back, and my mother's health bills keep piling up. I feel guilty even thinking about leaving them behind to chase some dream on a campus somewhere. Guilt is a heavy chain, but sometimes it's built out of love. Your parents are not sacrificing for you so that you can stay trapped beside them. They are sacrificing so that one of you can get out, turn around, and pull the rest of the family forward. I've spoken to your father a few times, quietly, when he was cleaning the teacher's lounge. Do you know what he told me? He said, if my daughter has to leave this town to become the person she's meant to be, then I will mop every floor in this district to help her do it. He is betting everything on you, Amara. He really said that? He never tells me how hard it is. He always acts like everything is fine, like the pain in his back is just a little soreness and the extra shift is no big deal. Sometimes I feel like I don't deserve that kind of faith, because what if I fail? What if all this sacrifice leads to nothing? Failure is not trying. As long as you keep moving forward, setbacks are just detours, not dead ends. And as for scholarships and access, let me be very clear, you are not going to walk this road alone. I will help you find programs. I will help you prepare essays. I will write recommendation letters so strong they'll think you're a superhero. All I ask from you is one thing: don't let their cruelty convince you that you are smaller than your potential. Thank you, Miss Rivera. It means more than I can express to know that at least in this one classroom, someone sees me as more than the janitor's kid. I'm still scared, and I still hate walking down that hallway sometimes, but sitting here right now, I feel something I haven't felt in a while: possibility. Hold on to that feeling, Amara. It's going to be your lifeline on days when everything else feels heavy. And one more thing, start documenting your ideas. The way you talk about changing things, about building something different, that's entrepreneurial thinking. Keep a notebook. Write down problems you see and potential solutions. You never know which scribbled idea might become the foundation of your future company. My future company? That sounds so big, almost ridiculous coming out of my mouth. But maybe I will start that notebook. Maybe every time they make me feel small, I'll write down one more big idea, just to prove to myself that my mind doesn't have to be limited by my circumstances. Exactly. Let them measure you by your shoes. You and I will measure you by your vision.
Hey, Amara. Wait up a second.
Ethan? That's surprising. I didn't realize you even knew my name, considering you're always surrounded by people who pretend not to see me.
Yeah, I know how it looks. But I do know your name, and I know your grades, and I know that Miss Rivera never stops talking about how brilliant you are. I wanted to talk to you without the rest of them around. Is that okay?
I suppose that depends on why you want to talk. If this is some kind of setup where Chloe jumps out and records me saying something so you all can turn it into a joke, then no, it's definitely not okay.
It's not that, I swear. I'm not proud of how they treat you. I'm not proud of how I let them treat you. Sometimes I laugh along just to avoid being their next target, but when I go home, I actually think about the things they say, and it bothers me. I see your father working in the hallway. I see how tired he looks. And I see you, always with your books, always focused, like you're trying to build a rocket ship out of paper and willpower. I guess I just wanted you to know that not everyone on the rich side is blind.
It's nice to hear someone say that, but words are easy when you were sitting on a bench with no audience. Where were you when Chloe was mocking my dad this morning? Where were you when she said my future was basically scrubbing floors? I looked around, and all I saw was a crowd of amused faces, and yours was one of them.
I know. And that's what I'm ashamed of. It's weird, you know? My father always talks about leadership, about standing up, about being a man. But the moment I'm in that hallway, surrounded by them, I feel like I'm 12 years old again, desperate not to lose my spot at the top of the food chain. So I laugh at things that aren't funny, I stay silent when I should speak, and then I come out here and pretend I'm better than that. It's pathetic, honestly.
It is pathetic. But at least you're self-aware, I guess. So what exactly do you want from me right now, Ethan? Forgiveness? Validation? An official statement that you're not as bad as the rest of them?
I don't expect you to forgive me just because I feel guilty. I guess I wanted to know how you do it. How do you keep showing up every day, knowing that the second your father rolls his cleaning cart down the hallway, half the school is going to turn you into a punchline again? If I were you, I don't know if I'd have the strength to come back.
Sometimes I don't have the strength. Sometimes I go home and cry in the bathroom with the shower running so my parents won't hear. Sometimes I fantasize about disappearing. But then I remember that this is not the end of my story. This school is just a chapter. And if I let people like Chloe dictate what I can become, then I'd be handing them the pen and letting them write my life for me. I'd rather endure their cruelty for a few more years and use that pain as motivation than give up and prove them right.
I wish I had that kind of fire. Everything in my life has been laid out for me. The college I'm supposed to go to, the role I'm supposed to play in my father's company. I've never had to fight for anything. And yet, somehow, I still manage to feel trapped.
Being rich doesn't mean you can't feel trapped. Your prison just has nicer furniture. But you do have something I don't, a choice that doesn't risk your family's survival. If you decide to be different from your father, if you decide to use your position to actually change things instead of just benefiting from them, you won't lose your ability to pay the electric bill. I don't have that luxury. For me, failure has real consequences.
That's true. And hearing you say that puts a lot into perspective. I complain about pressure, you live with actual stakes. Look, I know I can't undo the years of silence, but maybe I can start with something small. Next time Chloe or anyone else goes after you or your dad, I'll say something. I don't care how awkward it is. If I want to respect myself, I have to stop behaving like a coward.
I'll believe it when I see it. I've learned not to put too much faith in promises that cost the other person nothing. But if you actually just speak up, if you actually risk your standing even a little bit, then maybe I'll start to think of you as something other than one of them.
That's fair. For what it's worth, I think you're going to go far, Amara. Way farther than any of us realize right now. And when you do, I hope you won't become like us. I hope you won't forget what it feels like to be on the other side.
If I ever get the kind of power your father has, I promise you this, I will never build a life that depends on looking down at people. I'll build something that proves we don't have to stay stuck in this rich versus poor story forever.
Then I genuinely hope you succeed. Maybe the world would be better if more of the power rested with people like you instead of people like, well, us.
Amara, sweetheart, you're home later than usual today. I was starting to worry, but then I reminded myself that you're probably in the library again, chasing dreams that will carry you very far away from these peeling walls.
I was with Miss Rivera for a while, talking about scholarships and universities and big futures that don't feel real yet. Then I sat in the courtyard for a bit, thinking about how different my life might look in a few years, and I got lost in my head. How are you feeling, Mom? Did you take your medication on time?
I did. Your father lined them up on the table like little soldiers before he left for his night shift, gave me a lecture about not skipping a single pill, and then kissed my forehead like I'm made of glass. Between the two of you, I'm very well protected. But telling me about what Miss Rivera said will probably help me feel even better. I need to hear that everything we're going through has a purpose.
She said I have a real shot at scholarships, Mom. Not just one, but multiple. She thinks if we put together the right applications, I could get a full ride somewhere. Maybe even far from here. She talks about me like I'm some kind of rare opportunity for those universities, like I'm not just another poor girl trying to escape.
That's because you're not just another poor girl, Amara. You're our miracle. When I'm lying awake at night, listening to your father's footsteps creaking in the next room as he rubs his back, I picture you in a place where no one knows you as the janitor's daughter. I picture you as Miss Okafor, the brilliant young woman changing the world. It's what keeps me from collapsing under the weight of all these bills.
I want to be that person for you, Mom. I want to be the proof that this struggle wasn't for nothing. But I also see everything you and Dad go through, and sometimes I feel guilty for wanting to leave, for dreaming so big when you were still here coughing and trying to stretch every coin.
Never feel guilty for wanting more, Amara. The entire reason we endure what we endure is so that you might be the one to break this chain. If you stay small because we are struggling, then our suffering will have no harvest. If you allow yourself to rise, then everything we've faced will turn into seeds of something better. Don't you dare clip your own wings out of misplaced loyalty.
I wish everyone saw things the way you do. But at school, they make it sound like my father's job defines who I am forever, like my future is limited to acceptable dreams for someone from my background. Sometimes I want to scream at them that I am more than my zip code.
You don't need them to see you clearly right now. That will come later, when your success is impossible to ignore. For now, it's enough that you see yourself clearly, and that your father and I see you clearly. You are not a statistic to us. You are the investment of our lives.
Miss Rivera also suggested something else. She told me to start writing down ideas, problems I notice, solutions I can think of. She says I think like an entrepreneur. I laughed at first, because how can someone who can barely afford lunch imagine being a businesswoman? But the more I thought about it, the more it made sense. I'm constantly noticing things that don't work for people like us.
Exactly. The fact that you live this reality gives you an angle on the world that rich kids will never have. They build apps to make their lives even easier. You could build something that makes survival easier for millions of people who live like we do. Never underestimate the value of understanding struggle from the inside.
Do you really think I could build something that big? Sometimes it feels like a fantasy to even imagine owning a laptop that isn't school property, let alone running a company.
Every company you see today, every brand, every building with a name on it, started as an idea in someone's mind. Those people were no smarter than you. Some had more access, more support, but that doesn't make their ideas inherently better. When I look at you, I see someone who could put her name on a building one day. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not in 5 years, but one day.
Then I will hold on to that vision, Mom. I will picture the building every time I want to give up, every time Chloe makes it sound like my destiny is stuck in the janitor's closet.
And when that day comes, I hope you'll remember this small living room, these second-hand curtains, this chipped coffee table, and know that greatness can come from the humblest of places. Now, do me a favor. Go to your room and write down 3 ideas before you sleep. Not just vague dreams, but concrete problems you want to solve. Consider it homework from your mother.
3 ideas. Okay. I can do that. If you promise to rest and not worry about the bills for at least 1 hour while I'm writing them.
I'll try, my love. But no promises on the worrying. A mother's heart never really sleeps. Still, go and write. The future is waiting for you in that notebook.
I have to admit, when Ethan said he invited you to this party, I thought he was joking. Yet here you are, standing next to the snack table like you're at a charity event you don't quite belong in. Did you get lost on your way to the cleaning supply closet? I was invited, Chloe. Ethan said it was for the whole class, and last time I checked, I'm still part of that group, whether you like it or not. I almost didn't come, but then I thought, why should I keep letting your opinion decide where I can and can't exist? Oh, that's cute. You think this is about my opinion. It's not. It's about social realities. When everyone here goes home tonight posting pictures of themselves in designer outfits, clinking glasses, and hashtagging something like #future CEOs, your presence in the background is going to stick out like a coffee stain on a white tablecloth. I know I don't look like all of you. I know this dress is borrowed, and my shoes are probably cheaper than the drinks you're holding. But that doesn't make me less of a person. It just makes my story different. You really don't get it. Parties like this are rehearsal dinners for future power. The people in this room will be the ones hiring, firing, cutting checks, and signing contracts. Networking starts now. And while you're here thinking about stories and feelings, we're building alliances. What do you have to offer in this network, exactly, other than a cautionary tale about what happens if you don't marry rich? Maybe I don't have much to offer right now except for ambition and a mind that refuses to accept your version of the future. But time has a funny way of changing power dynamics. Maybe one day, the connections you're so proud of will bring you in front of someone you once laughed at. You keep clinging to that fantasy, Amara. In fact, let's make tonight extra memorable so that when you're mopping floors one day, you can look back and say, I once stood in a rich girl's living room and thought I could be one of them. Everyone, can I have your attention for just a second? Our class's very own scholar, Amara, is here tonight. I think we should all give her a warm round of applause for having the courage to show up in a place where the cheapest thing probably costs more than her entire wardrobe. Chloe, stop it. This isn't funny. You're turning me into a spectacle. Relax, I'm just including you. Isn't that what everyone like you wants? Inclusion? Attention? Well, now you have it. Why don't you give us a little speech, Amara? Tell us about your big dreams. Tell us how you're going to escape your fate and join the elite ranks of people who don't have to check price tags. You want a speech? Fine. I'll give you one. You may have more money than me right now, Chloe, but the one thing I have that you don't is an intimate relationship with discomfort. I know what it's like to walk into rooms where I don't belong and still stand up straight. I know what it's like to be laughed at and keep going. You think tonight is going to break me, but all you're doing is adding another layer to my motivation. That was almost inspiring. Almost. But here's the thing, Amara, life is not a movie. There is no guarantee of a glow up just because you endured some hardship. Sometimes the poor girl stays poor. Sometimes the janitor's daughter stays invisible. And do you know why? Because the system is built that way. And people like my father are the ones who control that system. Then I guess I'll have to find a way to build my own system. Because the idea of spending my life begging for a seat at a table owned by people who think like you makes my stomach turn. Good luck with that. In the meantime, enjoy the snacks. They might be the most expensive thing you eat this month.
There you are, Amara. I was starting to get worried. Your mother fell asleep, and they didn't want to call you and embarrass you in front of your classmates, but my heart was doing little backflips every time I checked the clock. How was the party? Did you have fun? Did you feel like you were in one of those movies you like, with big houses and shiny floors?
The house was big, and the floors were shiny, yes. But if those movies showed what it actually feels like to stand in a room full of people who look at you like a stain, they'd be a lot less glamorous. I thought going would make me feel closer to that world, like maybe I could blend in if I just acted confident enough. Instead, I felt more out of place than ever.
What happened, my girl? Did someone say something to you? Because if any of those kids disrespected you, I swear I will march into that school tomorrow and...
Dad, it's okay. I don't want you to get in trouble at work. And it's not like this is new. Chloe used me as entertainment again. She made a show out of my presence at the party, turned me into the poor girl who dared to walk into the mansion. Everyone laughed. Some people looked uncomfortable, I think, but no one stopped her. Not even Ethan, not really.
I wish I could take that pain out of your chest and carry it for you, Amara. I wish I could wrap you in money and titles so that no one would dare to look down at you. But all I have are these hands, this job, and my love for you. Sometimes I feel like it's not enough.
Don't say that, Dad. You and Mom are the only reason I keep going. When Chloe was mocking me, I wanted to disappear, but then I thought about you mopping those floors, about Mom swallowing her pride to ask for help with medical bills, and I realized that if I let these people break me, I'd be disrespecting everything you've done to get me here.
You should never feel that kind of pressure, Amara. You have the right to break down sometimes, to cry, to feel angry. You're not a machine that converts humiliation into motivation on command. But I will say this, tonight could be a turning point. You can either let this memory haunt you, or you can let it haunt them later, when you've become someone so powerful they won't even know how to speak to you.
Tonight, in the big house, I made myself a promise. While Chloe was laughing, while everyone was pretending I was a joke, I decided that I would do whatever it takes to never feel that powerless again. I don't know exactly how I'm going to do it yet, but I know that one day, I want to walk into a room like that and not feel like an intruder.
Then that is the promise we carved into stone tonight. You will not repeat our story. You will write a new one. And I will support you with every breath I have left, even if it means working double shifts, even if it means eating beans and rice for the rest of my life, as long as it gets you to a place where no one can ever reduce you to the janitor's daughter again.
I don't want you breaking your body more than you already have, Dad. But I won't waste your sacrifice. I will get the scholarship. I will get into a good university. And after that, I don't just want a job. I want to build something. I want to create opportunities for kids like me so that they don't have to stand in living rooms like that feeling like imposters.
That is the most beautiful revenge you could ever take on people like Chloe. Not to hurt them back, but to make their cruelty irrelevant by changing the game entirely. One day, when some other janitor's daughter sits in an office with your company's logo behind her, she will have no idea that your journey started in these hallways, in these humiliations.
Then let's go upstairs, Dad. I have applications to research, ideas to write down, and a heart full of anger that I'm going to turn into fuel. I'm done just surviving high school. From now on, everything I do is going to be about building my exit.
That's my Linus. Let's go home.
When I got your email saying, I did it, I practically ran to my computer like a teenager. And then I saw the attached letter from the university, and I nearly cried right there in the teacher's lounge. A full scholarship to one of the top schools in the country. You did it, Amara. You turned those hallway battles into a ticket out. I still remember sitting in your old classroom thinking this day was some distant dream. Walking across this campus for the first time felt like stepping into a movie set. The buildings, the resources, the laptops everywhere, the students casually discussing startups over coffee. It's like a different planet from where we come from. You belong on this planet just as much as anyone else. Don't let the polished surfaces fool you into thinking the people here are inherently smarter or more deserving than you. Many of them had the path smoothed for them. You climbed a mountain just to get here. I remind myself of that every time I feel imposter syndrome creeping in. When a professor mentions internships in New York or London, and everyone else nods like it's normal, I think about the fact that 2 years ago, I was worried about whether we'd have electricity for me to study. But that gap between our histories doesn't intimidate me as much as it used to. If anything, it makes me hungrier. I'm not just here to get a degree. I'm here to figure out how to build something bigger than myself. And have you been writing in that idea notebook like we talked about? Obsessively. It started as a list of random thoughts in high school, but now it's pages of problems I keep seeing over and over again. One that bothers me the most is how students from low-income backgrounds struggle to navigate financial aid, scholarships, and part-time work without burning out or dropping out. I watched friends from home get accepted into good schools and then disappear because they couldn't handle the bureaucracy and the pressure. That is a real, painful issue. And the fact that it bothers you so deeply is a sign you might be the one to address it. Have you thought about building something around that problem? An app, a platform, a service? I have. I imagined a platform that doesn't just list scholarships, but actually learns about the student's situation and then guides them step by step, documents to gather, deadlines, alerts, mental health check-ins, connections to mentors. Something that makes the process less overwhelming and more personal. Right now, everything is scattered. Poor students are expected to be their own advisors, lawyers, and financial planners at 18. That sounds incredibly powerful. And very needed. You know, what always struck me about you is that your ambition was never just about escaping poverty. It was about changing the structures that keep people poor. If you can turn that concept into a functional product, you could not only build a successful company, but also change lives on a massive scale. I don't know the first thing about building a company, but I'm learning. I'm taking entrepreneurship classes, attending free workshops. There's even a campus competition for student startups. The winner gets a small amount of seed money and, more importantly, mentorship from real investors. I'm thinking about entering. The idea terrifies me, but so did walking into that mansion years ago, and I survived that. This fear is different. This fear is growth. The worst thing that can happen is you learn from the experience and come back stronger. But knowing you, you'll probably walk away with even more than that. Just promise me something, Amara.
What's that?
When you become this successful entrepreneur I see forming before my eyes, don't forget the girl who cried in my classroom after being humiliated at a rich girl's party. Don't bury her under your success. She is your compass. She will keep you from turning into the very people who made you feel small. I couldn't forget her even if I tried. She's the one who keeps me grounded. Every time I'm in a fancy building now, I remember what it felt like to be the least powerful person in the room. And I silently promise her that one day, she'll own a room like that. Not to show off, but to open the doors wider for others. And that, Amara, is why I have never doubted you. Go build that platform. Enter the competition. And when you need to practice your pitch, call me. I'll pretend to be a very tough investor. I'll probably take you up on that. Thank you for never treating my dreams like they were too big for someone like me. That belief was the first investment in whatever I become.
So, let me get this straight, Amara. You built this platform, starting from a dorm room, with borrowed laptops and late-night coding sessions, and in 3 years, you've gone from a rough prototype to a product used by hundreds of thousands of students across the country, with retention rates most companies would kill for. All of this while bootstrapping, without taking a cent of outside money until now?
That's correct. I was hesitant about investors at first, because I've seen what happens when people with money try to reshape a mission to fit their profit expectations. I needed to prove to myself that this idea could stand on its own, that students actually needed it. The testimonials we get every day, Kids who say they wouldn't be in college without our guidance. That's what kept me going during the nights when our servers crashed or the bills were piling up.
As an investor, I look at numbers. Revenue, growth, churn. But as a human being, what I'm hearing right now hits me somewhere much deeper. I grew up in a low-income household too, you know. Different generation, same story. No one to explain anything about financial aid, scholarships, or even how to fill out basic forms. I still remember losing out on an opportunity because I missed a deadline I didn't understand. The idea that your platform could prevent that kind of loss on a massive scale. That's worth backing.
I appreciate that. Because for me, this was never just about building a cool app. It was about rewriting a script. I got full scholarships thanks to teachers like Miss Rivera. But I kept thinking, what about the students who don't have a Miss Rivera? They're just as smart, just as deserving, but the system expects them to magically figure everything out. That's not fair.
You're absolutely right. And that unfairness is a massive opportunity, not just morally, but economically. You've tapped into a need that's been ignored for too long, because it doesn't immediately scream rich user base. But here's the thing, helping poor students access higher education has a long-term economic return. They become earners, taxpayers, consumers. Companies will eventually realize that supporting your platform isn't charity, it's an investment.
That's exactly how I pitch it to partners now. But I'm reaching the limits of what I can do alone. Our user base is growing faster than our infrastructure. I need a team. I need engineers, support staff, outreach coordinators. And to do that, I finally have to accept outside capital. That's why I reached out to you, Mr. Lawson. Your portfolio shows you don't just talk about impact, you back it.
I'm glad my reputation precedes me. But before we talk numbers, I want to ask you something more personal. There are plenty of entrepreneurs who come from comfortable backgrounds, building apps to make dog walking easier for people with 3 nannies. You, however, come from the kind of hardship this platform is trying to address. How do you make sure that as you become more successful, you don't lose touch with the people you're serving?
By never forgetting where I started. I still visit my old high school when I can. I still sit in small apartments with families who are trying to understand the college process. I keep my parents involved, too. My father might not understand all the tech jargon, but he understands the feeling of being lost in a system designed for other people. And I hire from the communities we serve. Our support team is full of first-general students who've used the platform themselves. Their feedback keeps us honest.
That's exactly the answer I was hoping for. Because here's the reality, when the money starts flowing, when the valuations climb, when the invitations to private events and exclusive retreats show up, it's easy to start believing that you've transcended your roots. I've watched too many founders forget the people who inspired their ideas in the first place. I don't get that sense from you.
I've been in rooms where I was the only one who knew what it felt like to count coins for bus fare. Once you've lived that, you can't just erase it. In fact, those rooms remind me why I'm building this company in the first place. Because the people making decisions about education often have no idea what the ground reality looks like.
Well, let's change that. Here's what I propose. I'm prepared to lead a funding round at evaluation that reflects both your current traction and your growth potential. I don't want to own your mission. I want to empower it. That means taking a minority stake, offering you not just capital but also access to my network of ethical partners. But I have one condition.
I'm listening.
You have to commit, in writing, that as your company scales, you will preserve a certain percentage of your services for students who cannot pay. Whether that's through scholarships, pro bono support, or partnerships with nonprofits. I won't back a future where your platform becomes just another paywall the poor can't climb. Deal?
That was always part of my plan. Monetization is important for sustainability, but if the kids who need this the most can't afford it, then I've failed. I'm happy to put that commitment in writing. In fact, I'll write it myself.
Then we're in business. And I have a feeling that in a few years, people will be telling your story in boardrooms as an example of how to turn pain into purpose. Just be ready for something else, Amara.
What's that?
When you succeed at this level, Ghosts from your past have a way of reappearing. Old classmates, old employers, old bullies. Some will come with genuine contrition. Others will come with entitlement, as if your success is somehow theirs to share. Be very careful about who you let back into your circle.
I've already imagined that scenario more times than I can count. The day someone who laughed at my father's uniform walks into my office asking for a partnership or a job. I don't know exactly how I'll handle it yet, but I know this: I will never again allow anyone to make me feel like I'm small.
Good. Because something tells me that day is coming sooner than you think. Excuse me, I don't usually do this, but you look really familiar. Are you the founder of that education platform everyone's talking about? The one that helps low-income students navigate college access?
I am Amara Okafor, founder and CEO of Bridgebeth. And you are?
Ethan Ward. My family runs Ward & Company, the investment firm sponsoring this event. I've seen your name on a few pitch decks and LinkedIn posts. You've built something impressive. It's honestly kind of surprising, considering where we all started.
Where we all started? That's an interesting phrase coming from you. It implies you remember our shared starting point accurately. Do you?
Wait. Amara. Okafor. As in, high school Amara? Janitor's daughter Amara? Wow. I mean, I didn't mean that in a bad way. It's just, you've changed so much. You're almost unrecognizable in this context.
And you've stayed very recognizable, Ethan. Same confident posture, same tailored suit vibe. Different venue, same hierarchy. What brings you to my corner of the room tonight? Curiosity? Business? Nostalgia?
A bit of all three, I guess. When I first heard your name in a meeting, I thought there was no way it was the same Amara. But then I saw your photo in an article, and suddenly I was transported back to those hallways. I wanted to talk to you, to say, I don't know. Congratulations? Maybe even, I'm sorry?
Sorry is a small word for big wounds. But I appreciate that it's on your mind at all. Most of the people from back then probably assume I've forgotten them. Newsflash, I haven't.
Neither have I. I remember the way Chloe treated you. I remember the party. I remember standing there, wanting to intervene and not doing enough. I still feel sick when I think about it. Seeing you here, on these panels, being praised by people my father respects. It's like the universe decided to hold up a mirror I can't look away from.
Well, the universe has a dark sense of humor. But this isn't about punishing you, Ethan. I've spent too many years focused on building something to let old bitterness run my life. That said, I've also promised myself never to minimize what happened. Those experiences shaped me, for better and worse.
I get that. And I don't expect instant forgiveness. Honestly, just talking to you like this, on equal footing, feels like more than I deserve. But since we're here, in a professional context, there's something else. Ward & Company is looking to expand our impact investing portfolio. Bridgebeth is exactly the kind of company we should be aligned with. I'd be lying if I said my father wasn't interested in a potential deal.
So let me make sure I understand this. The same family that once indirectly benefited from a culture that allowed their son's friends to demean the janitor's daughter now wants a slice of that same daughter's company because it fits their impact narrative. That is poetic.
When you say it like that, it sounds awful. And honestly, I don't have a great defense. My father is driven by returns, and right now, companies like yours are proving that doing good can also be good business. But for me, personally, this feels like a chance to, I don't know, redirect some of the privilege we hoarded into something meaningful.
I don't doubt that some part of you genuinely wants to support what I'm doing. But partnerships are about more than money. They're about values. Your family's name still carries the weight of a lot of arrogance and harm. Aligning Bridgebeth with Ward & Company would send a message about who we consider our allies. I'm very careful with those messages.
So it's a no?
It's a not yet, and maybe not ever, at least not under the current culture of your firm. If one day Ward & Company restructures, diversifies their board, and publicly commits to dismantling the kind of elitism that kept kids like me out of the rooms where deals are made, then maybe we can talk. Until then, I don't need your capital enough to compromise our principles.
I respect that. It stings, but I respect it. And for what it's worth, I am trying to change things internally. My father doesn't always listen, but every time I see someone dismissed because of their background, I think of you. Not as the girl we mocked, but as the woman standing here, turning us down because we haven't earned the right to partner with you.
Then maybe that's the role I was meant to play in your story, not as someone you rescue, but as someone whose success forces you to confront what your world looks like from the outside. I'm not here begging for inclusion anymore. I'm here choosing who I let into my circle.
And that's how it should be. I don't want to take more of your time, but I'm genuinely proud of you, Amara. I know that might sound hollow coming from me, but I mean it. You turned pain into something powerful. I hope one day I can say I did the same.
Then start by using your position to protect the next Amara you see in your world. Don't just feel guilty about the past. Change the present.
I'll try. Goodbye, Amara. Or maybe see you in another boardroom under different terms.
Maybe. Just remember, next time, I choose the terms.
So that's the path you walked. From that hallway to this boardroom. Listening to you lay it out like that, it's overwhelming. I knew you were successful, but I didn't understand the depth of what it took for you to get here. It makes my own career look sheltered, lazy in comparison.
It's not a competition of trauma, Ethan. You had your path, I had mine. The problem was never that you were rich. It was that you and people like you believed that being rich made you inherently more valuable. That belief is baked into your company's culture, and that's why we're here today.
About that, is there really no way to move forward without you taking full control? My father built Ward & Company from the ground up. Yes, he benefited from inherited capital and connections, but he also put in the work. Seeing his life's work slip out of his hands would destroy him.
My father also put in work, Ethan. He just didn't have stocks to show for it at the end of the day. He had calloused hands and an aching back. No one called him a builder of empires, even though he helped maintain the buildings other people took credit for. I'm not here to make your father suffer. I'm here to transform a structure that has been actively harmful.
If I tell you that I'm willing to step down, to let you bring in your own people, to support diversity initiatives, to restructure the pay scales so the lowest paid workers are finally treated fairly, would that change anything?
It tells me you're finally seeing the cracks. But we both know that real change requires more than good intentions. It requires power shifts. My acquisition offer includes provisions to protect employees, to implement fair labor policies, to create scholarship funds for workers' children. The difference between your plan and mine is that I'm not asking for permission from a board that still thinks like you did at 17.
So your answer is still yes. You're still going through with the acquisition.
Yes. But listen carefully, this is not a public execution of your family name. I'm not planning to plaster my story on billboards and humiliate you the way Chloe tried to humiliate me. I'm planning to quietly rewrite the rules within this institution. The headlines will say, Bridgepath acquires Ward & Company in landmark impact-driven deal. They will not say, Janitor's daughter takes revenge. The satisfaction I seek is not in your downfall, but in the uplift of people who've been invisible for too long.
And what happens to me in this new structure?
That depends on you. You can stay on in a reduced role, subject to the same accountability as everyone else, and use your insider knowledge to support the transformation. Or you can walk away with a golden parachute and continue living in the bubble that made you. I'm not going to force you to be part of the solution. But I won't allow you to be part of the problem anymore.
I don't want to run away from this. Not again. I've spent my life avoiding discomfort, and look where it got us. If working under you, answering to you, is what it takes to make things right, then I'll do it.
This isn't about you answering to any single quote in some petty hierarchy reversal. It's about answering to a new set of values. If you are willing to uphold those values even when no one's watching, then there might be a place for you in the new Ward & Company, which will soon be a division of Bridgepath.
Then I accept. Not because I am thrilled about losing control, but because for the first time, I trust the person taking it.
Good. Then let's sign the papers. And when this is over, I want you to do one more thing for me.
What's that?
I want you to visit a school. Any school. Walk down the hallway. Look at the kids who avoid eye contact because their shoes are worn, whose parents clean the floors at night. I want you to look them in the eye and tell them, truthfully, that there is a place for them in the companies we're building. Then I want you to make decisions that prove those words weren't empty.
I will. And this time, I won't just watch from the sidelines.
I still can't get used to the idea that I no longer have to set an alarm for 4 a.m., that I don't have to put on that uniform and report to a building where people pretend not to see me. Retirement feels strange. Almost like I'm breaking a rule every time I stay in bed past sunrise.
You've more than earned the right to sleep in, Dad. For decades, you cleaned up after people who never bothered to ask for your name. Now, one of the companies those people used to whisper about belongs to us. You. Me. Mom. Our family. The janitor's family owns part of the building now.
When you first told me you were buying that company, I thought you were joking. I still remember little you, crying in my arms after another day of being mocked. If I could go back and show that girl a picture of you in that boardroom, I think her lungs would forget how to breathe.
We can't go back, but we can honor her. Every policy we change, every employee we treat with respect, every scholarship we fund in the name of the workers who kept those offices running, that's for her. For you. For Mom.
Your mother would be so proud if she could see this. She always said you would put her name on something big. She didn't know it would be across the front of a corporate headquarters, but she knew you were destined for more than survival.
I miss her every day. Sometimes, when I'm sitting alone in my office after everyone's gone home, I imagine her sitting across from me, giving me the same lecture she used to give about not forgetting where I came from.
She doesn't need to worry. You've stayed more grounded than most people with a fraction of your power. I watch the way you talk to the cleaning staff, the security guards, the receptionists. You look them in the eye. You remember their names. You ask about their families. That, to me, is worth more than any headline.
I became who I needed when I was a scared teenager. I couldn't stand the thought of any kid feeling as invisible as I did. So when I sit in a hiring meeting now, and someone suggests we only recruit from certain elite universities, I push back. Hard. I remind them that genius can come from a community college as easily as from an Ivy League.
That is the real revolution, Amara. Not just owning what they own, but changing how they use it. Sometimes I wonder what Chloe would think if she saw you now.
Funny you mentioned that. She did see me. She showed up at my office a few weeks ago, actually. Things didn't go the way she expected. I have to admit, walking into this building and seeing your name on the wall was surreal. The last time I said your name out loud, it was probably followed by some cruel joke. Now it's printed on investor reports and magazine covers. Life really is full of surprises. Surprises are what happen when you underestimate people, Chloe. But I doubt you came here just to comment on the decor. What do you want? Straight to the point. Fine. My father's company took a hit recently. Bad investments, poor timing, a scandal that damaged our reputation. Investors pulled out. We had to downsize. A lot. I lost my executive position. Apparently, it's not good optics to keep the party girl turned VP single quote when the ship is sinking. I'm looking for a new opportunity. And your company? Well, it's the kind of place people are flocking to. You want a job? I prefer the term mutually beneficial collaboration. I have experience in corporate communications, PR, networking. I know how to handle high-profile clients. I could add value. Do you remember the night in your living room when you made me a spectacle in front of everyone? When you turned my presence into a joke to entertain your guests? Yes. I remember. I've tried not to, but I do. Do you remember calling my father the man who scrubs the toilets we refuse to sit on? Do you remember telling me that people like you would always have a head start, that the system was built for you and not for someone like me? I was young and cruel and drunk on my own privilege. I won't sugarcoat it. I was awful to you. And I'm not going to pretend that coming here isn't partly about survival. But it's also about facing what I did. Every time I apply somewhere now, I think about all the people I treated like they didn't belong. I thought money would protect me forever. I was wrong. I spent years imagining this moment. You, sitting across from me, needing something I had the power to give or deny. I fantasized about humiliating you the way you humiliated me. But when I look at you now, I don't see the all-powerful Chloe from high school. I see a human being who finally understands what fear feels like. So, what are you going to do? Are you going to throw my words back in my face? Tell me I'll always be the girl who laughed at the janitor's daughter? Because if that's what you need to do to heal, I won't stop you. I deserve it. No. I'm not going to do that. Hurting you won't erase what you did to me. It won't rewind the nights I cried or the years I spent trying to prove I wasn't who you said I was. What I will do is this: I'm not going to hire you. See. Because of the past. Partly. But also because when I listen to you talk about your skills, I hear a lot about parties and high-profile clients and optics. I don't hear anything about serving people who've been marginalized. My company's culture is built on empathy. I need people who understand that from the inside. You've spent your life at the top of the ladder kicking people's fingers as they tried to climb. That's not experience I can use here. So this is the door closing, then. This is me choosing to protect the environment I worked so hard to create. But I'm not going to slam it in your face. I'm going to give you something else: advice. Go work somewhere that forces you to listen more than you talk. Volunteer at an organization that serves the people you used to mock. Clean a floor. Serve a meal. Answer phones at a shelter. Put yourself in positions where you're not the most important person in the room. Let that humility carve you into someone new. Chloe. And after that? Would there ever be a chance to? I don't know. Make amends? Redemption isn't a favor I grant. It's a path you walk. If, years from now, I hear from people I trust that Chloe has become someone who uses her skills to lift others instead of squash them, then maybe our paths will cross again in a different way. But I'm not going to offer you a shortcut just because we have history. That's fair. Painful, but fair. I came here hoping for a miracle, but maybe what I needed was a mirror instead. Consider it held up. The girl you once called a coffee stain on your white tablecloth now runs the company whose table you want a seat at. Life is ironic like that. Use that irony wisely. I will try. Goodbye, Amara. And I'm sorry for everything. I accept your apology as a starting point. What you do next will determine if it means anything. I sat in the back, watching you speak to those students, and I swear, for a moment, I was transported back to my old classroom. You standing in front of the whiteboard, eyes burning with questions. Now you're on the other side, answering them. It's beautiful. I owe so much of this to you, Miss Rivera. If you hadn't looked past my worn shoes and my father's job and seen a mind worth investing in, I might never have made it out. Speaking to these kids today, seeing their faces when I tell them I used to be exactly where they are. It feels like closing a circle. You didn't just close the circle. You expanded it. You created a bridge where there used to be a wall. Watching those students line up to talk to you after your speech, I could see in their eyes that you weren't just a distant success story. You were proof that their circumstances do not have to define their ceiling. When I tell them about Chloe, about Ethan, about the ways I was humiliated, I'm not doing it to stir pity or anger. I'm doing it to show them that the people who laugh at them today might one day be the ones knocking on their office doors. But more importantly, I want them to understand that their worth is not dependent on that reversal. They are worthy now, even before the glow up, even before the fancy job titles. Them about Chloe, about Ethan, about the ways I was humiliated, I'm not doing it to stir pity or anger. I'm doing it to show them that the people who laugh at them today might one day be the ones knocking on their office doors. But more importantly, I want them to understand that their worth is not dependent on that reversal. They are worthy now, even before the glow up, even before the fancy job titles. That is a powerful distinction. Too many rags to riches stories accidentally sent the message that you only become valuable once you're rich. You're challenging that narrative. I try to. Because my father was valuable when he was mopping those floors. My mother was valuable when she was counting coins at the pharmacy. I was valuable when I was crying in that hallway. The money, the companies, the acquisitions, those are tools. They are not proof of my humanity. If there is one thing you want every student who watches your story to remember, what would it be? I'd tell them this: people will judge you by what they can see, your clothes, your address, your parents' jobs. Some will try to make you feel small so they can feel big. But their vision is limited. Don't accept their blurry picture of you as the truth. Work hard, yes. Dream big, yes. But also understand that your value isn't something you earn by impressing them. It's something you carry inside you, whether they recognize it or not. And what about the ones on the other side? The Chloes, the Ethans, the kids who might be bullying someone right now without understanding the damage they are causing? To them, I would say, be very careful about how you treat people who have less power than you. The world is unpredictable. The kid you mock for their shoes might one day be the doctor saving your life, the engineer building your house, or the CEO deciding whether to hire you. But even if they never become successful in the way the world defines it, they are still human. Hurting them doesn't make you powerful. It makes you weak. That's the message we needed years ago. I'm glad it's finally being said with this much clarity and reach. I used to think my story was just a private battle I had to survive. Now I realize it's also a tool I can use to light the way for others. Every time I tell it, it hurts a little less, and it helps a little more. And that, Amara, is the essence of healing. Taking what broke you and turning it into something that builds others. You've done that. I'm incredibly proud of you. Thank you. For believing in me when it wasn't trendy or convenient. For seeing beyond the janitor's uniform and the teasing. For handing me the pen when the world tried to write my story without my consent. You took the pen and wrote something extraordinary. Now go. There are more chapters waiting for you. And more students who will hear your voice and think, if she did it, maybe I can too. Then I'll keep talking. I'll keep building. I'll keep hiring kids who were told they didn't belong. And maybe one day, stories like mine won't be rare enough to go viral. They'll be normal. That's the world I'm aiming for. I am very proud of you.